about the statement, Professor. Good morning. And
good morning.
Many saying that highly irresponsible of Peter Dutton, highly uninformed as well.
I agree completely. I mean, it's really quite shocking, in fact, that you have to ask yourself, who does he listen to? It says so much about the way in which one's prejudices are operating, you know, who you give credibility to. And quite clearly, he's listening to right-wing organizations that speak to particular prejudices and assumptions that he's already holding, and getting more of a confirmation of the kind of ideological assumptions that, you know, he has always held about black South Africans, and I think about black people generally. So, yeah.
So for him, for those who are labeling him racist, in your opinion, they have a right. It is not highly removed from what it might be close to the truth. I mean, considering you're coming from a place like Australia, which has its own record of human rights violations when it comes to the
Yes.
Aborigines
Yes.
in Australia, and some saying that he is perpetuating racism as well by saying this, by saying to white South Africans, leave there and come to us, and you
Yes,
don't have to deal
to a civilized country.
To a civilized country. What are you saying about us?
Exactly so, and you know, one sort of feels that there's an element of, you know, Australia used to have that white Australia immigration policy, and it's almost as if he's harking back to that, you know, because there are all these measures. I mean, the Australian border control is so strict and so, you know, cruel towards people who are not white. Particularly like the people who are coming in from the north, you know, on the boat people. There are many people that are in tremendous difficulty that you'd say is much greater than that of white South Africans, for sure, that he's not prepared to let in. But then he sees white South Africans as being hardworking and part of the solution.
So I would feel very used if I was a white farmer being asked to come, because I'd be asked to be a labourer, basically, is what you're asking, aren't we?
Well, he said that he wants people who'll go into the areas, the more remote sort of areas where other people don't want to work, you know, so they can come and sort of, you know, till the land and be part of it, the sort of nation building. But it's a white nation fantasy that underlies that kind of approach towards immigration.
Do we see this severely damaging relations between South Africa and Australia? Now, we know Minister Lindiwe
Yes.
Sisulu asking the High Commissioner to come and explain and get his minister, his Home Affairs, to
Yes.
retract that statement, especially
Yes.
when you don't know, we don't even know how this process is going to work, the land expropriation, which is where it all
Exactly.
stems from.
Yes, but we have had reassurances. You know, there's every reason to believe that it's going to be managed well. Why should we not believe that? And unless we have an imagination that's filled with these images of marauding natives, you know, sort of, as he himself has said about cities in Australia. He's actually said that about one of the cities, I forget which one, where he says that white Australians are now nervous to go to restaurants at night for fear of the Africans who have immigrated to Australia, sort of, you know, attacking them and attacking. So you can see there is really a racist complex that is operating. And what's interesting to me is that you can really see these colonial tropes that shape the white imagination operating in so many different parts of the globe, because this imagination is exactly what motivates Trump to want to build a wall between America and Mexico. You can
Well,
see
that's my next question,
Yeah.
is that Peter Dutton is not going to be the only person who's going to
Yeah.
be saying things like this and causing or
Yes.
adding to what panic might exist in South Africa
Exactly,
already. So what do
exactly.
we do to manage that?
to manage the panic.
To manage the, well, sentiment that will come from outside to feed
Yeah.
the few, or those who feel that way in this country.
Yes,
Who feel,
you know, I also want to say that, you know, because this is actually a key trope in the racist imagination, in South Africa, it's been going since the 1700s. You know, every time there's this vision of the apocalypse, you know, what black people are going to do to white people, which we always called the swart gevaar. You know, but so that, and every time there is any kind of change that works towards redress, towards correcting these historical injustices, then this flares up again. So I think, you know, when we have changes like this, we will see a wave of immigration, because in fact, white people, colonial settlers, have never really stayed in the places where they settled once black or indigenous rule, was restored. So South Africa at the moment, we've still got probably the largest white settlement that does not control the state. in the area where it lives. But we can expect this. We can expect this movement because we've seen it
Well, Prof, I
historically.
suppose all we have to say is glass houses. People who live in glass houses should
People who
not
live in
close
glass
down.
houses, this is really, really true, you know. And I mean, I'm really pleased that the South African government is taking the position that it is, and I think they should absolutely hold the line.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Will we
Yes.
get that apology? Will he retract that statement? Let's wait and
Yes,
see. Thank you
let's
very
see.
much.
Thank
National
you.
Research Chairperson at the Wits Centre for Diversity Studies, Professor Melissa Steyn, joining us. Your sport coming up next.